Never
All right,
will.
we're live.
Hello, and welcome to the 13th edition of the Gray Circle Comic Book Club. I'm going to be hosting this episode instead of Adam because Adam, I don't think read it, but that's okay. That's perfectly fine. It is a taxing read, but it is rewarding. It's by probably my all-time favorite comic book author, Grant Morrison. Batman, The Black Glove, with art by Andy Kubert and J.H. Williams III and Tony S. Daniel. They are all pretty great. At least that's what I thought. I chose this book because I wanted to choose a long-form superhero epic that really kind of allowed uh, a lot of different kinds of stories and a lot of that kind of really worked to the strength of what makes Batman a character. And when I picked this book, I'd already read it, and I told the group, 'cause a lot of the group aren't very big Batman fans, so I told them, knowing that we all kind of grew up in the same era, we all are very familiar with the Batman breaking his back and the Batman the Animated Series and the Batman 1966 TV show with Burt Ward and Adam West. And I just kind of told them that every single one of those iterations of Batman are true and they've happened, and you kind of have to be somewhat familiar with them to understand that he's existed in this huge mark on pop culture. He's left this huge mark on pop culture itself, and the three new Batman movies and how much money they've taken in can really attest to that. To almost 3 hit video games, and yeah, and I just thought that this was the best way to look at Batman as a whole, and also a really good long-form story that would benefit everyone upon kind of getting through it and digesting it. And so really this is only the first act. There's still 2 more acts, and I'm probably going to pick it for my next pick, so everyone get excited for that. But so I guess we'll just go through right now and talk. We'll find out what everyone thought about it. I think it's going to be pretty diverse. I loved it, but you probably know that by now. So let's start off and ask Travis what he thinks.
All right, I got a couple questions before I go ahead and because I need to know some history, knowing that I do not like Batman. He's not my cup of tea basically. But that being said, who is Merlin and who is Nightwing?
Nightwing is the original Robin. That's Dick Grayson.
The original?
The
Yes.
original Robin, the very first Robin, is Nightwing. I can answer that one. Merlin, I have no idea.
Who is Merlin?
Merlin is a bad guy from the Green Arrow. He's another Archer. He's one of Green Arrow's rival villains.
Seriously, Adam?
Malcolm Merlin.
Yeah. Maybe. No.
He and yeah, there have been 3 Robins. Dick Grayson was the original Robin, and then after him was Tim Drake, and
Jason
Dick Grayson
Todd was-
became Well, yeah,
Jason
you're right.
Todd.
You're right. Jason Todd was number 2, and Jason Todd got the shit beat out of him by the Joker and was murdered, and then magically brought back to life. But that whole thing.
Several years later, in DC's defense, it took them a long time to bring Jason Todd
Yeah,
back.
they actually had a poll because Robin was a little bitch, and they had a poll.
At that point in time, yeah.
Yeah, it was like an 80s comic, and they said, "Call this number if you want Robin to live, or call this number if you want Robin to die."
And the
And
fans
Robin
killed
ended
him.
up dying, and Batman went on this crazy rampage after that. And then Tim Drake found out who Batman was because he's a good detective and he lived some hard life, and he convinced Batman that Batman needs a Robin, so he became the next Robin. And he's Robin when this comic is taking place. Tim Drake is Robin.
All right, and then another question I have is, why didn't we include the resurrection of Ra's al Ghul in this?
It's not that we didn't include it. It's not a part. It's kind of like It's a admissible omission, if that makes sense. It doesn't really add anything huge to the overall story, except for that it gives Damien a little more time to shine. But
Was that in some of the issues that we skipped?
no, it was. It's actually a whole nother graphic novel that is in between the Club of Heroes and the last few story arcs with the Ghost Batman.
Let's real quick talk about how lame the Club of Heroes is, though, real quick.
Oh, yeah. I think that was the point, though.
Yeah, it was.
I loved it though. I love the big old chunky Gaucho. Wait, what's his name?
El Gaucho.
Okay. Let me real quick say what I thought. Grant Morrison, I freaking love Grant Morrison. His writing is just amazing, and this whole comic was well written, I believe. But out of all the Grant Morrison novels that I've read, or comics, this one seems a little bit more like it was too rushed. It needed to be drawn out maybe just a little bit longer, as crazy as that sounds. But I felt like it was entirely way too fast-paced, and I was having trouble keeping up with where they were in the story, and the continuity of the story itself just seemed to get past me. But maybe that was just me, or maybe it was just the comics, the individual issues, and having all those advertisements in between.
The advertisements were annoying. I'll
Yes.
jump in and say that. The advertisements were obnoxious.
Agreed.
So, I mean, other than that, it was hard for me to follow it, and not knowing all of Batman's previous characters. Like, you said that Adam West character, like the 1960s Batman, made an appearance.
No, Adam West is the actor's name.
Yeah, I know, but his style, Batman, was in the comic.
Well, I wasn't saying that specifically, but there are a lot of hearkenings back to old Batman stories, particularly the issue where you find out that he's in the isolation chamber. That runs through like his whole history, everything. And
The isolation chamber episode or issue was freaking knucking futz, man.
Yeah, that was really. I mean, that and the Joker issue, which I don't know if you guys read, but I finally went through it. And read
I
it
did. It's
this
a
time.
novel.
It was fucking weird, man.
It was weird.
It was
Good.
weird.
But
Yeah,
weird.
it was really good prose. It has really great descriptions and very vivid.
It
But
left on a hell of a cliffhanger, and I will say that I am looking forward to reading the next ones, believe it or not.
I thought it was pretty.
Okay, that's all I have to say right now.
All right, Zach, what did you think?
Yeah, Zach.
Well, going into it, I kind of knew it was going to suck because it was Batman, and I definitely wasn't wrong, which is pretty much why I didn't read it. And so, if you're gonna go pick the next ones, I'll probably hunker down then and read this one. So that I have at least some semblance as to what's going on for the next ones. But I like Batman from a movie perspective. Man, I never liked Batman comics. Never. I just didn't like him. They're just I just didn't like him. I never cared for them. So
What don't you like about Batman?
I don't
I can
like
tell
that he
you.
doesn't kill. I don't like that he there's no supernatural aspect to him. So when some of the stuff he does, when it's set in a situation that has real life physics and real things should apply, they don't. But he's not supernatural, so he's not allowed to break those rules. So it's just I never liked that. It was just he doesn't have superpowers. He just has gadgets, but it's bullcrap the gadgets that he has because no human being could do the things that he does.
Iron Man also only has gadgets.
No. Iron Man's completely different.
He's a
he has-
human who has good training, is very intelligent, and has a suit.
And lots of
And
money.
he has a suit.
However,
And
and his
his
suit has a physics-bending device that powers it that that's what makes that happen. Batman doesn't have that. Batman fits the normal rules. They didn't create
Batman has
special
his
rules for
drive. It's his drive that's his superpower. That
Oh,
makes
and
him
it's
feel-
just his drive it just seems so whiny in the comic books.
And Gotham is so dull and
Yes, it was lame. I'm not disagreeing with you.
It's I don't mind dark. I mean, I don't mind dark, but it's a different kind of dark I don't like dark in a normal context. I like dark in a supernatural context, and Batman doesn't have that, so I just don't care for it.
which I will say one thing is that Bruce Wayne, from all my other previous experience, was awesome in this comic with his kind of outgoing personality, which I didn't really ever know other than in this comic. Like in previous or in even media and every other situation, Bruce Wayne is kind of a serious character, where this way he's almost like Tony Stark in a way, where he's a little bit more flamboyant and outgoing and a ladies' man, pretty much like a James Bond kind of character.
No, he's totally acting though. It's not who he is.
It doesn't matter.
But that's always been like an aspect of his character that's been understated, and I enjoy how they went back to that. And Steve's right. He's completely acting. He's not really.
Alfred's like, hey,
Playboy.
yo, listen, you gotta blend in, basically.
Yeah, well, he says to him in the beginning, you know that Batman voice that you used to have to practice? You're doing it all the time now. I think that
It's
kind
going to
of
give you away.
the tone in the beginning of the story, like that he has been doing it for so long that Bruce Wayne is really just the shard of his personality, and he's really Batman. And when Zach was saying there's no supernatural aspect, I think you should read it. There's a really cool like middle issue. It's like a prologue. It's kind of like a little bump in the road, and it shows Batman in the future, and it's a different Batman. And
Yeah, maybe I'd like that Batman.
he kills, he gets shot by police, and he just heals from it.
Yeah, until that time, I'm not a big Batman fan. I'd be very interested in that Batman.
Did I miss that one or what?
No, you should have read it.
Yeah, it was in there, somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, it was in the
It was
middle.
actually
It was,
issue 666.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I read that one. I know I did, because I was like, oh shit, this is...
It's the one that shows you the third Batman, the third ghost of Batman in the future, and how the future Batman has been, like, the whole city's going to shit, the whole world is going to shit. Barbara Gordon is the commissioner of the police.
Oh,
She's-
yes,
yeah.
okay.
And
So
that was I thought that was a cool kind of
he
supernatural.
gets shot in the chest and then it heals him.
Well, he says he sold his soul to the devil that Gotham would be safe.
That was another
And
fucking crazy ass.
I thought that was a really kind of interesting, throwaway from this whole thing that kind of added overall to the whole story, which is why I picked this whole thing, because it's so dense and it has so much intricate detail and storylines that weave in and out of each other that I mean, there were things that I caught that I had never noticed before, and I thought that was interesting. And that's why I was saying, Zach, you should probably go back and read it, because it's fucking awesome.
Maybe I'll just read 666.
You'll have to give yourself some time if you're going to read the whole thing, because it takes a lot.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
No, yeah,
It's not that bad if you skip Joker's novels.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't know.
You
I
totally
thought that was
skipped Joker's
part of
novel.
it, and
I
read
totally did too.
through, and then I think it was Zach or somebody that was like, "No, you didn't have to read that one." I was like, "Well, son of a biscuit farmer, the thing was huge." And that was actually, I'm sorry, I'm cutting in, was
No, go ahead.
one of my favorite parts and my least favorite parts all at the same time. I think the story behind it and just the detail in it was so awesome, and getting more of Joker and Harley Quinn's story and stuff too with them in there, I really liked it. But talk about similes galore. Like, oh my goodness, every other sentence, or probably just about every sentence, was, this is as dark as night, and this was as red as blood, and like everything was like, okay, you can ease back on the descriptions a little bit, but
what
it was a cool
for
story.
those of us that didn't read it, what was kind of like the overall premise of that whole thing?
It was about the Joker changing, and how he always changes. And whenever any writer writes the Joker, they kind of tackle him in their own with their own ideas, and they make him what they want to be. And he describes it as all these iterations of the Joker are all the same person. It's just that every once in a while he goes through this transformation, and so it kind of describes previous transformations in his whole process while explaining that he's becoming what I think it's called the Clown Prince of Midnight or something like that.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a really cool way to see Joker and how they explained how his personality and his thinking and stuff. It was really good, actually. Just a little over descriptive at some parts, but yeah.
It was what happens to him after he gets shot in the head by the first ghost of Batman. And
When he gets he's in the hospital.
Ghosts or cops? That's one thing I don't.
They're cops.
Yeah.
They just call it ghosts.
Ghosts.
Yeah,
Okay.
he says he has the dream of fighting three ghosts, his three ghosts, and that's who they are. They're those three cops that went through that experiment. But Nicole, you kind of started. Why don't you go into more detail about what you felt about the book?
Well, I pretty much read the first 9 or whatever back in like June when we were supposed to, and I had every intention of going back and kind of skimming through those again because it's been so long. Also to finish up the last few, and I got kind of stuck on playing Minecraft again, so I'm not gonna lie, I didn't finish the last few comics. But I liked it, but it was a little too long, and I think just because we had so much time before we actually are finally doing this, that I honestly don't remember a whole lot of it. But it wasn't my favorite pick, but it was still enjoyable, and Batman's not really my favorite, but I liked it. Overall, I liked it, and I want to finish the last few that I didn't read, and I wouldn't mind, reading the rest of the story when you pick it. Pretty much all I got.
The next part isn't long. It's not 15 issues, so it'll be quicker.
Does this series end with Final Crisis, or is Final Crisis in the middle?
Final Crisis takes place at the same time as the next part. And
Okay.
I'm probably not gonna. I'm gonna pick Final Crisis.
That was my question. That was my only question.
Afterwards, and then the Batman and Robin series, and then Batman Incorporated, and then it's over. But man, there are like 3 miniseries that take place at the same time, and like Return of Bruce Wayne and all this other shit. So we're not gonna go through all that. Anyways, Steve, what did you think about it?
So, I never really read Batman, and so I went into it with an open mind. I'm like, hey, it's DC Comics. Never really read those, but let's see what's up with this. And in the first issue, it started out really good. I really liked the art. First couple panels, there's a scene where Joker is like standing over Batman, and the helicopter with all the orphans is in the background. I'm like, oh, this art looks amazing. I'm going to really enjoy this. And in reading the comics, I mean, they were fine for comics. Like each comic was sort of its own story, and I was okay reading them individually. But as a whole, for the trade, it just seemed a little disjointed. There were too many storylines that didn't seem to really relate to each other enough, I felt, and it was just hard to follow what the beginning to end of the whole storyline was supposed to be.
I agree.
It's just a bunch of small storylines, and for comics that's fine. It's just really odd seeing it in a trade.
Yeah, I get that. It was very much here are a few different adventures in the different styles, that in the different genres that Batman can exist. The first story was kind of a straight up, you know, it was kind of an action film. It was Batman versus Ninja Man Bats, and then the second story is a bit of a mystery with the Club of Heroes, and the third story is this weird time jump psychedelic trip, and I get that but I appreciate it for being single issue stories, because you don't get enough of that in comics lately. Every single comic nowadays is part one of a 6-issue arc, part one of a 4-issue storyline, you know, and you have to read them all. And these characters are perpetually in Act 2. They're always Act 2 storytelling. It's just there's no end for any of these characters, because you can make it seem like it's going to end, but it's just another platform to, like, it's just the next chapter in their lives, and they're always going to continue on. So as far as it going, you know, for being that kind of story, I thought it was a very good job of raising the stakes and making Batman seem you know, very, very much against a foe that you don't know if he's going to win. You know he's going to win.
That's a good point. Is why doesn't anybody ever kill Batman?
Somebody has.
I mean, we're okay. Let me rephrase that question. The ghost almost seemed evil to me in the comic, and they had multiple opportunities to kill him, but they didn't. Can you tell me? Maybe I just I wasn't able to comprehend the story that much, but I felt like I didn't know where they stood. Whenever they beat him up, they pretty much they didn't really leave a good enough reason as to why he got away or why they let him go.
Well, the first time, didn't he get
the big guy? The big Batman.
Yeah, that guy left him for dead and was distracted by something else. And then the prostitute saved him.
Yeah.
The prostitute saved him. Yeah, they took a. But what about when he was chained to the chair?
Well, I mean, that time the guy was going on about a supervillain plan. And at that point, he made it clear, I mean, to me, he made it clear that they were created in Batman's image. And so they were created, they were tortured and twisted and meant to...
And that's, you know, and that's what I guess I have to see the overall story. So I guess I'm trying to figure out the end. But for me, I feel like right now, as the story goes, we don't know what those ghosts want. We don't know if they want to take over Batman's job or if they're just a contingency plan in case Batman dies. So it feels just a little off right now, but maybe it's explained later on, hopefully.
Well, he does say, why do you think we were activated right now? And they don't answer that question at all. He just says, why do you think we were activated right now? And I think it's kind of goes back to the same thing with Talia bringing Damian around, and the same thing with like all of these old Batman-inspired heroes being dragged to an island to be, you know, to be put through the ringer. It's all kind of happening at one time, and it has to be for a reason. Talia is badass.
I love her. Yeah. Matt, have we gotten your input?
No, we haven't.
Oh my God.
I know what he thinks.
Well, yeah, I loved it. And was it my favorite Batman book? No. It's not my favorite Batman book, but that's okay. But I still thought it was great. You know, what I liked about it was it felt a little bit more Batman-centric. A lot of Batman books tend to be villain-centric, you know, every bit as much as it is Batman. This one I felt focused more on Batman himself and what's going on with Batman and who Batman is and whatnot, and how the people around him make up Batman and whatnot. And I had heard about Damien, but I never read anything with him. So it's kind of cool to see his introduction into the DC universe, as it were. So I loved it. My response is simple.
Here's what I'll say. From what you guys have, this sounds like a comic that Batman fans need to read. If you're not a Batman fan, or if you're not familiar with Batman, then I don't think you should read this one. I think you should start off with something else, because this is definitely aimed towards Batman fans.
There's probably truth to that, for sure.
Because I mean, for me, I share the same sentiments as Zach does. As far as in regards to Batman, anybody that any human that says they can beat up Superman is just a joke, in my opinion, and shouldn't be worthy of a continued storyline. Because I mean, that's just ridiculous.
But there are so many stories where he's beaten up Superman.
What?
There are so few stories.
That should never happen.
Superman is beaten up
One
Batman.
time he had a suit, another time he had...
It doesn't matter. There's only needs to be one time.
Yeah, but
Is
Superman's
Superman-
arch enemy is human.
Lex Luthor? Okay, but Superman
no,
has
he
the
uses
same
like
like
Batman.
goody two-shoe thing where I'm not going to kill anybody, so he chooses not to kill Lex Luthor, who also happens to be his best friend. So, or used to be. But
Superman's the most boring character on the planet, though.
I completely agree. That's why I don't like DC. But
Let's just put that out there.
yeah, as far as Superman
Generally
goes,
speaking, I agree with you, Travis. I don't like
he
DC.
is a freaking badass of superpowers. I mean, if you put that, well, they do. Isn't Captain Marvel pretty much Superman and? Or no.
In terms of personality, Captain America is much more Superman in terms of personality. In terms
Personality.
of
But I'm
power,
talking about powers.
Sentry.
Sentry.
It would be
There's
the
a
closest
couple
equivalent.
Marvel guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Hyperion. Sentry,
Hyperion. That's the one I was thinking of.
Blue Marvel. There's a few guys, but none of them are as boring as Superman because they
Yeah.
haven't had as much time to explain how boring those characters are. Superman's the first superhero ever created. Of course,
Yeah.
they're gonna tell
Whose
boring
comic just sold
stories
for
about
what,
him.
$3.5 million?
Oh man, they're all so boring though.
I know.
They're so boring. Except for Grant Morrison wrote All-Star Superman, which was about Superman dying. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be something I would be willing to read. And so that is the case that I put out, is that you have these in as far as the comics go, because for me in media, in movies, and video games, it doesn't matter what it is. If it has any kind of badass action or science fiction or fantasy aspect to it, I'm gonna enjoy it, and that's why I love the Batman movies, and I love the Superman movies and whatnot. But for Batman, he's just kind of he kind of doesn't have the aspects that I'm looking for. And now that I've seen the show Arrow, I really kind of want to read some of Arrow's, the Green Arrow stuff.
I agree.
Because I mean, he is exactly what I wish Bruce Wayne was.
Kevin Smith wrote a good Green Arrow storyline.
Really?
What I hear is good. I haven't read it, but
We
it's,
should
I've
totally
heard
pick
it's
that one up then.
Yeah.
One of you guys can pick it, because I hate Green Arrow.
You're gonna pick more friggin' Batman.
Yeah. Wait, how many of you guys liked the Christopher Nolan Batman films?
I did.
I did.
Especially 1 and 2.
Very good.
Dark Knight, yeah.
3 was okay.
Number 1, Batman Begins, was amazing.
So good.
Dark Knight was still probably my favorite was my favorite superhero movie.
That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
I like 45 minutes of the Dark Knight.
Like
Whenever
less
Heath
than
Ledger's
every
on
time I watch
screen,
What'd you say, Joe?
whenever Heath Ledger's on screen, it's really good. But man, the rest
Yeah.
of the movie fucking sucks, man. It's just, it's just so boring. It's such a typical cliche. Two-Face flips out and goes on a rampage because his girlfriend dies. He's a district attorney for how many years, and how long has he known this girl? And all of a sudden, he's
You
gonna
are
throw
saying
away
the
his entire
reasons
life.
why I don't read Batman.
Oh, man,
you're just putting them right out there.
Dude, all those movies are in Christian Bale's Batman voice. just everything.
Oh, yeah.
Every time that he speaks, I just want to.
It
Yeah, but
hurts
Heath
my
Ledger's
throat
Joker
every time he
completely
talks
justifies
Snyder.
it.
I mean,
You're right.
Gary,
you're right.
Gary Oldman too as Gordon, who's another great cast
Oh yeah.
for that. I
And
freaking love Gary Oldman.
Michael Caine being paid
Michael
to be
Caine.
Michael Caine.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
No, you're not Alfred. Don't worry about Alfred. You're Michael Caine. Don't.
Yeah.
That's who you are.
And is there a Morgan Freeman in the comic books?
Yeah, Lucius Fox. He's the guy that invents and builds all of Batman's stuff. He's like the plot device that they use to say this is how Batman gets away with all these cars and toys.
He's
and all this shit.
the Q.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He is Q.
Did the James Bond. Well, should we do final thoughts then?
Yeah, sure. Let's go down the line. Zach, what are your final thoughts? We'll ask Adam too. He may as well.
In my defense, I probably read more than Zach.
Well,
Yeah, I
you
read
tell me what you
nothing,
thought
so
about
it's
it.
not a probably. If you opened the comic, you read more than Zach.
Yeah, what did you think about it? What you read?
I'm sorry, Adam. I didn't even know you read any.
That's all right. Well, I'm not going to lie and say I was terribly impressed by what I read. I wasn't necessarily, but that may have ended up getting justified later with the additional comics. And the reason why I say that is the precursor that you gave us to Joe, talking about, everything that happened really happened and blah, blah, blah. You need to know this stuff about the past. Got me very excited about the comic. And I had this vision of a Dark Knight comic, of a broken Batman because Robin's dead and all these horrible things happened. And it opens up to Batman deciding he wants to date girls again and go on parties with Robin there. So it is not at all the comic I was expecting, and was immediately disappointed by it being none of the things you said it was. And maybe I would have liked it better not having that precursor, because all these people who were supposed to be dead and all these injuries Batman was supposed to have, none of that was there. Robin was alive. Batman was fine.
Well, the third Robin was alive. And the first Robin was alive. But the first Robin wasn't Robin anymore.
And that maybe it ties into the fact that comic books expect your readers to know the past, so they don't lead into things like that. You're just supposed to know. And Zach, as a note, you have still never read a Batman comic, so you can't know if you don't like it.
Yes, I most certainly have read Batman comics.
Well, Batman
Back in the
have you read?
in the 90s or 80s and 90s.
Oh, 80s
In fact,
Batman?
Rob was a huge Batman fan. The only one I ever partially enjoyed was a graphic novel that came out with Batman that was much grittier, and I liked it at the time. But it's, I don't know if I'd like it anymore. But
Which one
yeah,
was it?
Rob was a huge Batman fan.
So the one Batman comic you read you liked?
No.
That's
There
a
were
100%
several-
ratio right there.
There were several, and I didn't like any of them, but the only one I did like was a graphic novel, because he picked up that one and an Elektra graphic novel that had nudity in it. It was like, oh my god, there's nudity in a comic book.
What
And
did was
I
it
remember
Killing
liking
Joke?
both of those comic books. But it's because they were in a style so different than anything I had read at the time, and I was still a kid, and so a graphic novel format was something I
Even
was
looking through this, I'm nervous to actually read it, because I like Batman, but I haven't read the comics. I like the concept of what I think Batman is, and if the comic doesn't live up to that, then it's just ruined. So as long as I don't read it, I can assume it matches up exactly with what I'm thinking.
As long as you don't read it, you can continue being the biggest Batman fan.
That's right.
And that's the thing with all these superhero comics. People get mad. Like, Thor's a woman, Captain America's black. Just wait a year.
Why is that a problem, Joe? I would like to know, for the camera, why you think that's a problem.
No, he said people get upset, not
no,
Joe gets
no,
upset.
Everyone gets mad about comic books not matching the way they should be, or not being what you want them to be, or not being how you remember when you read them, when you really love them.
Right.
And everyone gets mad about that kind of stuff. And it's like I said, it's all in the second act.
Right.
It's all perpetual.
And
Nothing will
consequently,
ever end.
the thing that makes you mad may be why a million other people love it. So it's
Exactly.
so various.
Well, and most of
Vice
these
versa.
comics have gone on for so many years. They have to eventually change something up. I mean, how many times can you
Right.
tell the same story you have to mix it up,
And that's where
it just depends on where you pick up the comic. If you haven't, maybe if you've read the entire thing through and you don't like where they're going with it or something, but
I like the idea that is Batman because I envision Batman in like what you saw in the Nolan movies, where there aren't other superheroes, and this is just a person trying to be a superhero for a world that needs a superhero, and they don't exist. Now, in the DC universe, he gets thrown in with all kinds of superheroes, and that makes it awkward. But originally, he was just, he's the detective who's trying to take it a step further. And it's the same thing. I like the concept that is Superman, because Superman is the quintessential superhero, but he comes off as totally boring.
Here's the thing. All Gotham City needs is any other superhero from the DC universe to just move into.
Oh man, why is it so awful? Always.
Yeah, and then it just wiped clean. Like Superman just come there for like a week, take care of all the riffraff, and it's now what is it, Metropolis?
Well, the last thing any city needs is Superman getting into a fight with villains and just blowing up every fucking building in the city block. Last thing any city needs is Superman.
I would like Superman in Phoenix, Arizona.
Well, there's no big building here.
well, you blow up the city, then what's left?
No,
The riffraff's gone.
the riffraff's gone. That's right.
See, Arizona's got it right. We keep a whole city at a lower level. Superman can fly right over it. We're good. You throw a skyscraper up in there, he's going to run into it.
We got a few skyscrapers.
I mean,
All
they'd be
5 of them.
Yeah, all 5 of them. No, but you had a good point, Adam, with saying that. But it's just like you said. If somebody that had the vision of Batman, like you do, were to sit down and write a story line for it, and they were to put it out there, and DC was like, okay, yeah, we like this, so we like your take on on Batman, so we're gonna roll with it. So everybody has their own opinion on it, and that's what they're doing, is they're expressing it through their notoriety in comic books. And Grant Morrison, this is his take on how he wants Batman to be, and I felt like it was a lot, but it was there were some cool things that he did, and some aspects of it that made me think, like especially this part where he's talking about he really put an emphasis on his training and his background, and I found out things that I never knew before that he went through. I know that he trained with Ra's al Ghul in the Shadow Assassins. Is that what they're called, or whatever that?
League of Assassins.
League of Assassins.
Yeah, and I think in the movie they're called the League of Shadows or something.
League of Shadows. Yeah.
Something lame like that.
Yeah. and he went through some other things too.
Because League of Assassins is so much more creative than League of Shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, then answer me this then. So based on what I've seen with the Green Arrow as well, so the League of Assassins, if you're in the League of Assassins, you freaking kill people. That is something you do. So when Batman trained with Ra's al Ghul, was he the one person that didn't have to kill people?
Well, in the comics, he never trained with Ra's al Ghul. He just banged his daughter. Yeah.
Okay.
At all?
In the comic, no. He goes to the mountains and trains with monks, and he mentions Nanda Parbat and going there, but it's not Ra's al Ghul that he trains with.
Oh, okay.
He changed that for the movie to make it full circle. He goes off to learn all these different fighting techniques, and
Gotcha.
he kind of tips this group off to his hometown, and that's where they go find him. So it's better for a movie, but if you're doing comics and you're not thinking about that, you're not seeding the ultimate villain in the first issue. You're just telling an origin story.
Okay.
Wow. I did not know that.
But I mean, even though you didn't know that, the comic still made sense to you. You had this understanding of Batman's origins. You know, he went to the mountains and did all that shit. So it's not really intrinsic that you have that distinction that he didn't go train with Ra's al Ghul. In fact, it kind of makes more sense to you as a movie fan because when Talia shows up, it's like, oh, shit just got real, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it did get real with her.
Mm-hmm.
I love her.
Let's go into to final thoughts. So, Zach, your final thoughts?
I will consider reading parts of this comic, considering you're going to pick it again. So I will begrudgingly do that. But for the sake of Comic Book Club, I will do it.
Well, for my next pick, it'll probably be like 3 years in advance, so you got a lot of time.
Appreciate that.
Steve, what do you think?
So this is your third pick, right? You had Girls, Saga, and this one?
No, I did Girls, Morning Glories, and...
Morning Glories.
Yeah,
Saga was Travis's.
Travis's Saga. I think, this is my third pick.
So, I've liked your picks that, it's stuff that I would have never even heard of before. I really like that. As far as his Batman one's concerned, it's probably, down at the bottom out of that list.
Batman is probably only slightly higher than Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. I will say that. I will say
that. You haven't even read it.
And I haven't even read it. But I
you
know.
didn't read that one, Zach? I didn't know that.
No. I read Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. I didn't read Batman.
No, okay. I thought that. Sorry.
Nicole, what did you think?
I liked it. It's my first Batman. I like Batman. I used to watch the show back in the day with Adam West, and then the cartoon as well growing up. And then I like the movies. So I was excited to read this, and it's still not, like I said, it's not my favorite. But I'm glad that I finally have actually read a Batman comic, and I did enjoy it. I think that most of the problem I had with it is that we had such a long span between reading it and now, and that it was just so many issues. But otherwise, I liked it okay, and I don't mind going on and reading some more of them.
Cool. Matt, tell me.
It's a fantastic book.
My son is being dropped off. I'll be right back.
Okay. It's a fantastic book and whatnot, but you definitely have to have a little bit more appreciation for comic book Batman, because as everyone has mentioned, there's a bit of a difference between Batman and the other media and Batman and comic books, and this is a tough introduction to comic book Batman. I would argue if you've never read a comic book Batman, there's some better books to start with and then jump into this one. But if you've read a few and whatnot, this is an excellent book.
Good to know, Matt. Thanks.
Adam?
Muted.
Was he sleeping? I saw him lift his head up.
Yeah. I agree. And disagree.
Good comments.
Okay.
Travis?
I'm going to end up finishing reading. All right, I'll throw that out there. I believe in the spirit of Comic Book Club, which means we should read everything put in front of us, which is why I suffered through Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. I would have read this one. I just didn't expect to be here today at all. And every time we were going to have Comic Book Club, I've been out of state on business. So I keep not reading the comic, and then I got an early flight, and that's why I'm here. So I apologize to Comic Book Club for not adhering to the spirit of it in reading the comic.
Zach.
I make no such apologies.
3 months late. That's in addition to the 2 weeks that you would have had normally.
Listen,
I'm not gonna
right before Comic Book Club, so I keep it fresh in my mind. It has worked successfully for every single meeting except for this one.
That's true. I read it. I started reading it back in June, and I mean, I remember bits and pieces. Mostly when you mentioned something, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. But having
Zach
such a
doesn't
long
even
span
remember.
was kind of
He
brutal.
actually read it 3 months ago. He just doesn't remember. Travis, closing thoughts.
I did enjoy it. I really like Grant Morrison and he continued to impress me with this one, especially with the detective notes that he put in there alongside with Batman, and so that's cool. But again, I think that you really need to be a fan of Batman to enjoy this comic. So in that case, I don't like it. So, the writing style is nice, but Batman sucks. So
You suck.
Okay,
that's all I got. Joe?
I would be more prone to tell Batman he sucks than I would Travis he sucks, because Travis might actually kill me. Batman's not gonna.
you know, Travis can't break every bone in your body. You know, Batman can.
Yes, and
That's
that was
the
Without
another
difference between
killing
thing.
Travis and Batman.
That was
That's-
another
that's
thing
true.
that he said in there that was kind of cool that I thought about. He was approaching the guy, and John Mayhew, and he was like flying a plane or something, and Batman breaks in, and he's like, "You know that I'm gonna cripple you, right?" And that's pretty much what he's gonna do. You know, he may not kill you, but he's gonna leave you crippled.
I'm gonna have your
maybe.
shit up.
Yeah, and to me, I don't know if he were to like paralyze me somehow. I don't know. Maybe I would almost want to choose death over that. So in some cases, I guess it could be worse, but who knows?
I used to be in comic book club, then I took a Batman to the knee.
Joe.
Well, I can't speak too loudly, or probably too
Yeah.
much, but you guys all know I enjoyed this comic. I'd argue that Batman is one of the most interesting characters, and it's for the opposite reason that really Adam thinks that he was in the movies he's the only normal human. I think it's cool that he's the only normal human in a world full of Superman and Green Lantern. I mean, I really like Wonder Woman. Don't really like the Flash, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, any of the archetypical DC characters.
Green Arrow. Green Arrow's human.
Oh man, Green Arrow. Okay, I won't go into that anyway. But Batman, I feel like, Batman's the guy that won't kill because he suffered that ultimate tragedy. He won't kill because he knows what it does to a person, and he knows that when he crosses that line, what he actually becomes. And Superman, in that same sense, it's kind of why I didn't like Man of Steel. I mean, other than it was boring. Superman doesn't kill either. And that's kind of the cool thing about DC characters is that in the right hands, the creators can tell a story where they're against all odds and they're it seems like they're going to have to compromise their morals and who they are to achieve victory in the day, but they end up winning out in the end. And like I said, this is, as much as they're all second acts, this is the first act of this awesome Batman story. And it's kind of about putting Batman through the paces and introducing you to who he is and how capable he is. And at the end, you kind of start seeing when Batman is really tested that he has plans in place. That's the thing with Batman. He always has a plan. That's why I like him. That's why he can go up against Superman, is because he's thought of a million different ways to take him down. And it's like, not that all those million different ways are going to go through, but he still thought up every single aspect of his altercation with Superman. And it's just like the same thing in the beginning when he's fighting at those ninja bats. He says, like, Plan A did this, Plan B does this, Plan C started going to shit, so I kicked in Plan D. And he says that all within like two panels, and it just shows that he's always thinking, always doing something. He's resourceful.
So Batman with superpowers is Thanos.
You know what? I think pitting Batman against Thanos, Batman would win.
Oh, shut up! Oh,
Well,
please.
let's look at their track records. Who's always losing in the story, and who's always winning?
No, there's
Thanos
specific
defeats
things.
himself.
There are specific things that he loses. Hand to hand against Batman, not even hand to hand. Toe to toe with Batman, no freaking way does Batman win.
Batman's not going to fight him toe to toe. He's too smart for
I'm
that.
just saying.
Batman has nothing cosmic power that can stop cosmic powers. Nothing.
Yeah.
What does Thanos have without the gauntlet?
What's that?
A chair? What's Thanos have without the gauntlet?
Other than being
Thanos is
twice
extremely
anybody's
powerful
size.
without
Yeah.
the gauntlet.
Yeah, he's got yeah.
He's extremely powerful without the gauntlet.
All right.
Besides, all he has to do is back up into space, and Batman's like, oh shit.
All I've seen is a flying chair.
We leave you on that note. Batman versus Thanos. Who would win? With that, I'm Joe, Adam, Travis, Matt, Nicole, Zach, and Steve with the Comic Book Club. First time in forever. This is Nate. He's sleeping.
Yep.
We'll see you next time. When
Oh,
we're
what is the
reading
next
April Rising.
next pick, and when's our next gathering?
It is Nicole.
Is
My pick,
October
I picked
9th?
October.
Or no, September 8th?
I'll be out of town. But hey, I'm going to
We
stop the
might have to
broadcast. So
connect.
goodbye, everybody.